Hudson.
Here.
Gregory.
Here.
Henderson. Nierenberg.
Here.
Schroer. Weber.
Okay, quorum being established, we're going to move into hearing bills. So I know we do have an established order, but we have some senators that have other places they do need to be. So I believe we're going to start with Senator Schroer and his Senate Bill 978. Senator, begin when you are ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. As you said, Senator Schroer, Senate District 2, presenting 978. And I will have to run after this presentation, after this bill, but I will be back for the end of the committee. Senate Bill 978 is legislation designed to ensure that our schools fulfill the essential role in educating young minds on the fundamental aspects of human growth and development. This bill closes the gap that we currently have seen in public education regarding reproductive health care by mandating a scientifically rigorous curriculum that equips students with the biological and physiological facts necessary for healthy decision-making without endorsing any particular ideological agenda. Senate Bill 978 requires school districts and charter schools across the state of Missouri to incorporate instruction on human growth and development into their educational programs. This education, which encompasses the scientific study of human anatomy, physiology, and developmental stages, is to be presented in an age-appropriate manner, drawing from established medical and biological research. This bill amends existing statutes to emphasize that such education be based on verifiable data from fields such as endocrinology, neurology, and reproductive biology, ensuring that students receive accurate information about the natural processes of maturation, health maintenance, and the avoidance of risks associated with uninformed behaviors. We teach children the importance of the consequences of their actions, but when it comes to reproductive health care, this is an area that they need the full picture of. This bill preserves the local control that many in this building hold dear, as well as parental involvement, allowing districts to tailor the material within the bounds of scientific accuracy, while also providing mechanisms for parental notification and opt-out provisions, where appropriate. It does not impose extraneous social theories, but focuses squarely on the empirical, the stages of physical development, the role of hormones in growth, the importance of nutrition and exercise and maturation, and the biological imperatives of reproduction and health. I know there are several people here to testify for and against this bill, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that I can today.
Well, thank you, Senator, for the bill. I guess I'm just perplexed as to why, learning human development would be controversial in any way, shape, form.
We're going to find out.
Yep. All right. Any questions? Senator, proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
Okay, let's start with at what age we're going to begin the lessons that you propose. So it looks like on page 6 we have the requirement for such lessons to begin no later than grade 3.
Correct.
Okay. So third graders. Do you have a third grader?
Yes, I've got a second grader and a fifth grader now.
Okay, so I have a first, fourth, and sixth grader. So we're talking about 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds. Are they going to be required to watch the video that you proposed, for example?
Well, it's all going to be age appropriate.
Okay.
So as long as you're within the confines of this form of education, we're going to have some experts to kind of dive deeper into this. But think about, we teach kids before they can even reach the stovetop. We teach them, hey, it's hot up here, you can burn yourself. You teach them not to walk into the road. There are certain things that we teach them to prepare them later in life, and this is going to be another one. So just educating them on how the human process in life develops, that's going to be something that in third grade, it's going to look a lot different than what a sixth grader or a high schooler would. And we're leaving a lot of those decisions at the local level to the school boards to determine what's going to be best for our community.
And I very supportive of local control, especially when it comes to decisions about curriculum. I am curious, though, as to the video provisions. It seems like that would still be applicable to third graders, no? Yeah,
so it's really odd how this works. There's a book when I was very young, and it was like a Peanuts, a Charlie Brown book that went over human development. And that was something that was given to me at a very young age. I want to say like in first grade. Very age appropriate. You had pictures of the growing baby at different stages, and even afterborn, what it looks like as humans develop. And I think that these videos, whether it's the baby inside the utero and developing, these are things that you can absolutely have a cartoon. I've seen cartoons that could be applicable, that are just educating you as to what life is, how a baby is born.
But I'm going to go, Senator, just for brevity. Page 4, when we're talking about this video, it's not. It seems like you have something very specific in mind, right? So we're talking about that high definition ultrasound video, at least 3 minutes. Do you have a specific video in mind, Senator, when you drafted this?
I don't. I've seen a lot of options that are out there.
So what are some of those options? I'm just curious.
I can provide you some links. I don't have them today. I don't have the TV with me.
Nothing whatsoever as to what would, because again, it's so specific here as to the video that you seem to be defining, right? We're talking about 3 minutes in duration at least, right? Development, brain, heart, sex organs, all of these things, process of fertilization. It seems like it was drafted with something specific in mind.
Well, I worked with some healthcare providers in my neck of the woods in the St. Louis, St. Charles County area, some educators as well. This is the first stab at it. I don't know of any other bill that has addressed this in the past, so I'd be more than willing to work with both sides of the aisle in something that I don't think is going to be controversial, just educating on human development. I know a lot of the kids that I've talked to, the families that I've talked to who are getting this type of education, the sexual reproductive health care education, it really misses when it comes to the human development and if you decide to keep your baby or if you decide to abort your baby, what does that look like? So this is going to try to fill in those gaps.
Conversations we're going to start having in 3rd grade.
Well, in 3rd grade are going to be different than the conversations in 6th grade.
Okay.
I think
Would you share the links to the videos that would, I guess, meet the standards that you lay out in your legislation? I think that's going to be important.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Again, just for the record, I'm a big proponent of reproductive health education. I actually was a reproductive health educator for a time, and I think it's incredibly important. When I talk to Missouri students all the time, my high school students, so many of them are dissatisfied with the information that they are provided in school, and I think they are looking for a lot more information. I think we can look at some of the really staggering and dire statistics that we see here in Missouri right now. Quite frankly, we see rising cases of STIs. We talk to our Department of Health and Senior Services. We see all of these cases of syphilis, for example, just spreading wildly. I think it's very important that people have access to accurate reproductive health education, and that is, I think, one of the priorities when I look at your bill is making sure that we're having accurate scientific information that is available to students. And again, leaving it up to school districts to make those decisions that are appropriate for said school districts. And then again, giving parents, we had this conversation yesterday, giving parents the ability, the autonomy to opt out as they deem necessary. So thank you.
Yeah, Senator, just briefly, you kind of hit the nail on the head that we're seeing in all of our communities with the growth of social media and kids having tablets and phones. And I've had many parents come to me, try to figure out a way that we can legislate somehow blocking age-appropriate websites, or you go to YouTube Kids and all of a sudden there's a sexually oriented video that a 1st grader or a 2nd grader is watching. So kids are being exposed to a lot of this stuff, and I think we need to overhaul our educational requirements to give them all of the information. So look forward to working with you all on this.
Did you? Senator, proceed.
Senator, good morning.
Good morning.
So about a little over a year ago, Missourians voted for safe legal abortion services in Missouri. And so I guess my question is, does your bill help implement the will of the people, or is this a regulatory burden to just try to block what the people of Missouri have voted for?
Well, I think this is entirely different than Amendment 3, past Amendment 3, new Amendment 3. I think this gets down to the issue that I just stated, that we're seeing kids being exposed to a lot of this stuff earlier. We're seeing younger kids that are either having babies or in abortion facilities, whichever way they decide. And they're really lacking when it comes to the sexual reproductive health care information that they have in schools. So I think it needs to be overhauled. I don't think this is going to be an impediment in any way. Like I said previously, there's a blip in here towards the end that once you're older, and if the school district decides, okay, we're going to implement this in sixth grade, we're going to teach, if you decide to keep your baby, what does that look like? When does human life develop, how it's developing in the stages, and if you decide to go the route of an abortion, what does that truly look like?
So obviously, you and I disagree on a lot of the, I guess probably what counts as scientifically accurate information, and in the issue in general. But my understanding of Missouri law right now is that there's a requirement that abstinence be taught as the only completely effective way to avoid pregnancy. Is the fact that you think this bill necessary, isn't that sort of acknowledgement that our current state policy regarding teaching sex education is not sufficient in the state, and that policy we have right now is not working?
Well, I think a lot of things aren't working in our state, especially things that have been done 20, 30, 40 years ago. They haven't caught up to times. I think the chairman had a bill just a year ago on different books that kids are being exposed to. I came across a packet of this information the other day, and some schools think it's appropriate to teach kids very graphic pictures of sexual acts at very young ages. I don't think so, but I guess their interpretation of our existing laws allowed them to do that. So this is another area that I believe we need to overhaul it. We need to educate, and we're not, telling kids, what to think. We're kind of teaching them how to think about these things. There are kids that I've met that really have no idea how a baby is developed, how life is developed. I know I've talked to teenagers who ended up having an abortion who never knew, that weren't educated on what that looked like. So again, this is a first stab at an issue we're now seeing happening in other states of incorporating growth and development into this type of curriculum.
So do you view this bill as an effort to help teenagers decide whether they should have an abortion or not?
No, I think it equips them with all the tools necessary. I think right now...
To make an informed choice?
To make an informed choice either way.
Okay. Thank you.
Senator, this Friday, my daughter's going to be induced to have my first grandchild. And I've been invited to go and participate and watch 40 sonograms of my granddaughter. And it's really eye-opening to just see. I can see, like, during the 40 sonogram, my granddaughter sucking on her feet. We couldn't even get like a clear shot because that's what she wanted to sit and and then suck on her thumb and her hand. And I think exposing kids and showing them that this is life, this is human, this is where you came from, you started at this point. I mean, if you walk down a Walmart aisle in the toy aisle, there's baby dolls everywhere. They sell strollers for little girls. You have daughters, correct?
Yep.
What's like the first instinctual thing a girl wants to do? They want to play mom. So the innate want and desire, and to actually teach the scientific and the real aspect of what the human development really is, and you can do it in cartoon format or even in a 4D sonogram. My 11-year-old daughter, when she saw what's going to be her niece, I mean, it's really remarkable to see human development and technology that we have.
Well, now with the 3D videos that you can have, it's life-changing. I've talked to people who, when we did the heartbeat bill a couple of years ago, people that came to my office saying, I knew I wanted to get an abortion until these 3D videos of the baby, and you can actually see that this is life. So again, this isn't trying to sway one way or the other. This is just providing all of the education. I don't think that this should be controversial. We know when life begins. We know when life ends. We have different parameters in here that we've talked to many doctors. And again, I look forward to working with everybody to overhaul our education system when it comes to providing the tools necessary to kind of understand, have a full picture if you're going to make these decisions of bringing life into this world or ending life.
Well, and you brought up some of the material that's in our school libraries that's extremely inappropriate for kids. Go to a public library and what's in display for kindergarten level type kids. So to say that showing human development, I mean, we're not getting into what sexual preference you want. We're just showing how the human being, its development from conception to natural We're just showing you in a scientific realm what that is.
Well, I've even heard from parents and their kids who've gone through the sexual education classes, and they say, well, they teach you if you're going to do it, how to do it safely, if you're going to get a disease, what to look for, but they don't teach you the consequences of the act.
Right. Yep. Well, thank you for the bill. Any further questions? Okay. Anyone to testify in support of the bill, please come forward. Please remember, if you are going to testify, to fill out a witness form and to state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Susan Klein, representing Missouri Right to Life, here to go on record in support of Senate Bill 978, and we thank Senator Schroer for bringing this forward and for you taking it up for a hearing and for consideration. As Senator Schroer has stated, this is really an education bill. It's not dealing with one way or the other, pro-life, pro-abortion. This is about the scientific, factual education of children in our public schools, age appropriately, about the development of a human being from the beginning of conception until birth and beyond. But realistically, the development of a human being at the beginning stages. So Idaho just recently passed this bill back in 24-25 session, and we know that Missouri is a pro-life state. We know that Missourians want to know the truth, the scientific, factual information about the development of a human being. And I think it should start in our public schools. And I think it enhances our abstinence program. It really gives our kids all the information that they need to make wise choices.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any questions? See none. Anyone else to testify in support of the bill, please come forward.
Good morning. My name is Timothy Faber, and I would thank you for the opportunity to speak on this bill today. When I first read it, I had some serious concerns and actually contemplated not being in support of it for some of the same reasons that Senator Nirenberg mentioned earlier. To me, third grade seemed pretty young to be addressing some of this stuff. But then I got to thinking about my kids, and I'm older than I think everybody up there on the dais, my grandkids. And I can tell you, third grade's not too young. Unfortunately, we live in a society where our kids are learning things that people in my generation didn't learn until we were older, unless we lived on the farm and saw reproduction in real life. The thing is, what our third grade kids are learning isn't accurate. They're hearing things on the bus, they're hearing things from other kids. And parents often struggle articulating these things to their kids. And so I think this bill that is going to provide accurate information in an objective manner to overcome a lot of the so-called street wisdom that our kids are picking up is a good thing. And I don't have any problems with the rest of the bill. I think it's all very good. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? See none. Thank you. Anyone else in support?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Samuel Lee, registered lobbyist with Campaign Life Missouri, to go on record in support of Senate Bill 978, and very grateful to Senator Schroer for introducing it, and you, Mr. Chairman, and the committee for hearing it today. I don't want to repeat what has already been testified to in favor. I would just add that there are other areas in law now that require some sort of education. I'll give 3 examples, and that's not a complete list in Missouri law. For instance, in more recent years, the legislature has passed a law to require Holocaust awareness and education in our schools. Secondly, school districts have to observe, not only have to observe Veterans Day on November 11th, but they are required to have at least one class period discussing the meaning and significance of Veterans Day. And thirdly, our state laws also require an age-appropriate curriculum for students in pre-K through 5th grade. on the prevention of sexual abuse of children. And these are just 3 examples of many others. Of course, there's just, every school district has to have certain education requirements for students to graduate. So this is consistent with what's in the law right now in terms of providing, school districts providing certain types of education.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions? See none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else to testify in support, please come forward.
Lisa Panett, Armor Vine, and we just view this as a common sense education bill, and we're appreciative of the sponsor for bringing it.
Thank you. Any questions? See none, thank you very much. Anyone else to testify in support? Okay. Testimony against, please come forward. Please remember to fill out a witness form.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Dr. Sandra Allam. I'm here on behalf of the Missouri State Medical Association and go on record in opposition to Senate Bill 978. I am a retired OBGYN. Now that I have a little more time, that I'm not in active practice, I spend a lot more time with a nonprofit organization called the Chart Teen Task Force, which has been in Northeast Missouri, serving the 7 counties of Northeast Missouri since 1995. The goals of that organization, nonprofit, is to decrease unintended births to teens and decrease STDs in teens in Northeast Missouri. My job is to raise the money, write the grants, to provide a trained sexuality educator who will use evidence-based materials in her teaching to go into the schools at their request, and each school has their own rules. You say that your bill will allow schools to decide what they do or don't, but your bill has very strict requirements, and the schools really sometimes are not as lenient as you would think. So when our teacher goes in, she starts, the youngest that she will see is to teach puberty changes, anatomy at late 4th grade, early 5th grade. They really do not want the educator in earlier than that. So this would be new, I think, to do that. And then she spends more time with middle school and high school students, teaching healthy relationships, decision-making, consent, pregnancy prevention. Of course, abstinence is tops, but we know that's the only 100% safe way. But for those who will be sexually active, we do teach about methods of birth control and sexually transmitted infections. The schools have given us the rules that we do not teach anything mentioning pro-abortion, anti-abortion. That is just left out. We just do the other things that we think as an organization will prevent any need for abortion, and that's what the schools insist on. And you're saying that the schools can decide for themselves, but this bill really is saying there are a lot of other requirements that the schools have to follow, particularly the video, the 3-minute video, which is required from 3rd grade on, which will take a lot more than 3 minutes because there will have to be a lot of explanation, particularly for the younger kids, about what is going on. So the time is very limited in the school day to get any information about these health matters to students. And so to add all of these other requirements, including this long video and the explanation of it, is going to then eliminate some other things that I think have in our area really decreased the unintended teen birth rate. And we always have to work on STDs. It was mentioned, syphilis is on the rise, chlamydia is always high in our area. And so we really do need, I think, to continue the health education in the schools that has been done, emphasizing pregnancy prevention, sexually transmitted diseases, and not add the other things required in this bill, which were not always accurate. The education that our kids should have should be evidence-based, and it should be by trained educators. Thank you. And I also have written testimony from a pediatrician, Dr. Emily George, which I will leave. Thank you.
Oh, hold on. We have, ma'am, questions. So, you know, you spoke to teaching students about STIs, STDs, things that are, you know, potential, occurrence due to sexual activity, but I guess is pregnancy potentially not a potential result of sexual activity?
Yes, and we teach pregnancy prevention.
Okay, but we also need to teach what occurs during that pregnancy and the what results from that, which is another development of a human being, and the fact that every single one of the students sitting in the little chairs were also at this particular point in their development in their life. I guess, so how is that unscientific?
I didn't say it was unscientific, but our teaching would be hopefully to avoid for young people, for teenagers not yet graduated from high school, to teach them ways that they can prevent having a pregnancy happen at that age.
Sure, I mean, that happens, but I mean, teaching human development, how is that controversial, especially coming from a medical...
It's not controversial. I think there are time limitations. If they will allow us 40 minutes, to teach pregnancy prevention so that these kids can get through high school without a pregnancy, so they can have a high school diploma and have a good life and upward mobility in the future, that a pregnancy can really prevent if they have a pregnancy.
So do you think it's more important? Well, I mean, we teach in life sciences, what's taught in science is that people evolved over millions and billions and trillions of years, I guess, but we can speak about that for years and years and years and years, but we can't speak and show video of a 9-month occurrence of human development?
Because it won't just be a few minutes.
Because you speak on the necessity to know the material, so you're expecting teachers with a 4-year degree to teach over billions of years of supposed human history, but we can't teach or show a 3-minute video because they may ask questions?
It's not just 3 minutes. It will be a lot longer, particularly
Sure.
for third graders.
And aren't we supposed to
It could
teach
be a whole
critical
section just on that.
thinking of this sort of topic? I mean, isn't that what you want people to be aware of what occurs during pregnancy, or do we want to keep them in the dark?
I would like to,
So we're worried about
for middle school
sexually
students
transmitted diseases.
and for high school students.
But as for
that they
a human
prevent
development,
a
we don't want them to
pregnancy
know.
when they are in high school, until they have that high school diploma and will have a chance to succeed in their futures. And they can learn about that later. I'm not saying that's not nice to learn about, but the time is limited for us to do this teaching. And I think it is more essential for high schoolers, middle schoolers, and even younger not to have a pregnancy during that time.
We're not talking about having a pregnancy. We're talking about what occurs in human development just in general is what this is requiring. So we don't want them to see the real, true science of human development because it may spur questions.
I think that the time is limited to our teaching, and so we need to teach.
So we're worried about evolution potentially billions of years ago, that we may have came from primordial ooze. We're going to spend a bunch of time on that. But something that is right in our face of human development that we can objectively see, we just don't have time for that.
Maybe not in third grade.
Okay, all right. Any questions? Senator, proceed.
Good morning. Thank you for being with us this morning. You know, as we talk about limited time, I'll be honest, there's nothing I would like more than to have bills before this committee that are really dealing with improving educational outcomes for all Missouri students. I would love for us to be discussing bills to improve literacy rates. We talk a lot about, can we get back to reading, writing, and arithmetic, and quite frankly, I would like nothing more than that. Recognizing one of the things that you said is time is limited. I think, as was mentioned before, this legislature continues to dictate more and more things every single year while taking nothing away from what is mandated that is taught. So one of the things that really struck me that you said is, again, we're talking about very limited time and making sure that that time is well spent with comprehensive information that is age appropriate. I was thinking about conversations that I've had with my children and just the very basics. It's very tough, and those are significant conversations. It's not putting up a video up there. You really have to, there's a lot that goes in at the beginning and all those follow-up questions at the end, right? And how trained you have to be to have those conversations. I cannot even fathom the vast majority of elementary teachers ever wanting to touch this. So one of the things that you mentioned in education that you are working on as you spend your retirement years, and thank you for doing that, is again, important information at those different stages. For my young kids in school right now, I sign to give consent every year for them to have lessons that are very important for young children about safe relationships with adults, what safe touch looks like, how you say no, how you get away from situations. Even again, those conversations happen at young ages, as they should. But again, as we're getting older, talking about puberty, what's happening to your body and why, right? All of these things. But one of the things that I do not see in this bill is this evidence-based education that really is needed to provide comprehensive sex education. So just wanted to say thank you for being here, and thank you for using your retirement years in such a novel or such an important way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? See none. Thank you. Anyone else to testify in opposition, please come forward. Please remember to fill out a witness form and state your name.
Hello, my name's John Stambaugh. Y'all have seen me up here many, many times. I apologize I didn't get here at the very beginning. You know, parking's a little bit challenging around here now. And maybe this was discussed in the moments before I got here. But in this type of situation, in this type of subject matter, when I was reading through the bill's summary, the biggest concern that I had, not so much about the instruction, but I never saw anywhere in that bill summary where it gave the parents the option to opt out, to say, I do not want to expose my children to this, I'll handle it on my own accord. And then at the very last paragraph of that bill summary, it was pretty scary to me that basically in that bill it says that basically you can be fined, arrested, what have you. This is the type of situations and subject matter that parents ought to be able to, like you say, make a decision for their kids, let them opt out of that class. I mean, it especially in third grade, seems awful daggone young to me. But like I said, this type of bill, if you want to go forward with it, I don't really have too much problem with it, except the parents need the option to opt their children out for those type of movies or subject matter. Let them handle on. I mean, we all figured it out, didn't we? So, but I understand that in today's society, there's a lot of information on the internet and what have you, but still, I am opposed anytime government wants to force things on a parent, take their parental rights away, and there's lots of other subjects up here that, in my opinion, this body has basically stomped all over parental rights. So, thank you.
Thank you. So you think that people should have to opt out of showing someone a 3D ultrasound? Showing kids that it's a 3D?
I don't really think that, I mean, back when I was in third grade, you could have showed me that. No one had a clue as to what.
They didn't have that when you were in third grade,
Well,
though,
but it don't
right?
make any difference. I'm not sure I'd have had a clue or paid attention to it or whatever. If they're going to show childbirth by the subject matter, showing an abortion taking place or whatever, I'm not so sure that I would want the parent to make a decision on whether they want their children to see it.
So if they were showing images and that sort of thing of a birth of cattle, would you want a parent to have to sign off on seeing a cattle farmer and the fact that they're giving birth to and helping a calf be born kind of deal too?
Well, you can probably go find somebody at the farm if they're going to go see it, but how come they don't show when a cow's marched into the slaughterhouse?
Oh, they do.
And you sit there and watch that whole process. They don't show that whole process that I've ever seen. I've never even seen it.
Yeah,
I'm
they showed it.
67 years old, and
I
I've never
remember
seen
when
the
I was in
process.
school, they showed the whole process of the slaughter of cows and how they're brought up and go through the milking process and how they're slaughtered in a slaughterhouse and everything that they showed in school. So,
Whatever. Like I said, only thing I have an issue with is something that of that nature, that you're taking away your parental rights for them to decide whether they want to teach their children about it or not. It's their choice, or to force that upon them.
okay. Senator, proceed.
I think there is an opt-out on page 5, line 120, 21, and 22.
Okay,
where the
is that
parents-
within the complete bill, or is that in the summary?
It's in the complete bill.
Okay, I was just looking through the summary.
so because
Of
it-
course, a lot of times, as we've known in the past, in our summaries, they don't put enough information in there. I mean, there's legislation right now, and the Supreme Court's overruled, where they pick and choose what they want to put, to make it easy for, the voters to read, or, people like me. I'm not going to necessarily pull the whole bill up. I'm not a paid lobbyist. I don't get paid to spend copious hours, but within the summary, to me, that would have been I wouldn't have been here today if I'd have saw that in the summary, that parents had the option to opt out.
I just wanted to let you know that, and I think in most sex ed, I've been retired for a few years, but I think the parents always had an opt-out. That was usually at 5th or 6th grade, and the parents always had an opt-out at that time too, but thank you.
Okay.
Any further questions? See none, thank you very much.
I'll fill it up and give it to
Perfect.
him.
Perfect. Anyone else to testify in opposition, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Otto Fajan on behalf of Missouri NEA. You all have a lot on your plate. It'll be as quick as possible. We're opposed to Senate Bill 978 as filed. First, I'll mention a technical question, and that is page 4 and 5, where you're overriding the local control in the first sentence of that subsection with regard to the board determining the specific content of instruction in sexuality. Then we still have the existing law that says it needs to be age appropriate. It's less than clear how those two sentences interplay. That's a technical question, but then the stakes are raised, because if you go to page 6, lines 152 to 156, and I appreciate Mr. Lee bringing up the other things where the state has had specific requirements. In none of those cases is the Attorney General going to be suing individuals if they didn't precisely implement every precise word of this section. So we want to bring a profound concern that because you're putting so much new code in, so many new requirements, and then you're saying that anybody who violates any word of those new provisions can be sued by the Attorney General, that's in conflict with how we do all of the rest of state education law. And so we would urge the committee not to move the bill, or to, at a minimum, clarify those issues, and to remove any thought that someone's going to be sued for some kind of micro violation of these new requirements. Happy to answer questions.
Sorry, any questions? See none.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else testify in opposition, please come forward. Please remember to fill out a witness form. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Dr. Christine Jackson, and I am a board-eligible OBGYN who practices in Missouri, and I'm here on behalf of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists to oppose SB 978. I am here today to discuss the health implications of early education and the importance of presenting biological development through strictly scientific and clinical lens. From a medical standpoint, the biological processes of fertilization, embryologic development, and fetal development are well established in science. These processes are complex, gradual, and variable. No two pregnancies develop in exactly the same way, and medical education reflects that variability. It's important to distinguish between biological facts and value judgments when teaching these topics. Science education should focus on what we know based on evidence and not interpretations or conclusions that extend beyond established medical consensus. Health and development literacy matters because it forms the foundation for how young people understand their bodies over time. When adolescents receive medically accurate, unbiased information about growth, reproduction, and development, they are better equipped to make informed health decisions later in life. This includes decisions related to nutrition, preventative care, pregnancy prevention, and overall wellness. Evidence-based education has been shown to improve health outcomes across a lifetime. Conversely, when students receive misleading or incomplete information, clinicians often see confusion, anxiety, and misconceptions that must later be corrected in medical settings, which unfortunately can occur after unfortunate outcomes. I am also concerned about areas in this bill where medical information is presented in ways that may oversimplify or mischaracterize complex healthcare topics. As physicians, we regularly work to correct misinformation so patients can understand their health clearly and accurately. My goal here is to not limit education, but to ensure it is grounded in medical science, developmentally appropriate, and focusing on improving long-term health outcomes. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today.
Now, you stated that no two pregnancies are alike, but I have 5 kids. Again, I have a grandchild on the way. I know I had sat through numerous with my wife OBGYN meetings with the development of all my kids. And amazingly, it was always really cookie cutter in the approach from every OBG that my wife had to go through. I guess so. I mean, your guys' application is cookie cutter to the women that you are nursing and nurturing through pregnancy. I guess so. Teaching kids that, on the grand scheme, there may be exceptions, but the general rule is this is how human development occurs. How is that non-scientific and I guess not good science in terms of how human development occurs from fertilization until birth?
Thank you for the question. I am very happy that you and your wife had 5 successful pregnancies and didn't have any complications with those pregnancies, it sounds like. Unfortunately, I have seen many pregnancies that did not end that way. As an OBGYN, especially as
But again, those are the exceptions, they're not the rule of pregnancy.
Complications can happen at any point in any pregnancy.
But we're not talking of complications. We're talking on the general scheme of human development.
And I think that's where my issue comes in this bill, is that it leaves out all of that nuance that occurs in
is it
development
nuanced?
and
I
pregnancy.
mean, here in 2021, peer-reviewed survey of over 5,500 biologists all came to the conclusion that fertilization was where life begins, and it starts that process. And it goes from the fertilization and then from one cell and the multiplication. It literally occurs 100% of the time to every person that's sitting in this building right now. And sitting in this hearing, we all went through that same process. 100% of us, it was virtually identical. Our cells may have split. I mean, you can split hairs, cells split differently at different times, but we all ended up in the same, birth canal. We ended up in the same, being weighed. We may have weighed different, but we were still a perfectly functioning human being. So how is this incorrect information? That's what I don't understand. How an OBGYN that nurtures and helps women through pregnancy can sit here and say that it's confusing and unscientific to show on the grand scheme how human development happens in the womb.
Well, I think that it is a testament to how much has to go right in human development for any of us to be here today. As someone who specializes in
So it's a
human development-
miracle, correct? But we also want to teach the fact that it is a remarkable experience in a 9-month, to the day, week, basically, of when that baby is going to be born. So it's not like it's random.
I think my issue with the bill is that it doesn't use scientific language. It uses very emotionally
Do
charged,
you
religiously
use,
biased
for your pregnancies,
information.
3D ultra high definition sonograms?
I do not in my practice, no.
What is your practice?
I specialize in gynecology.
So you don't use ultrasound and any of that?
I use ultrasound, but specifically like the 3D, those 3D images aren't necessarily clinically relevant for my practice.
But if you were helping women to have babies, would you not be utilizing that technology?
You can in practice.
Okay, so you take recordings, you even give them to the mothers to be able to take home, show family members, or at least the ones that are, giving or have patients that are giving birth to those babies. You would do that, correct?
Certainly for patients who desire the pregnancy.
So I guess, how was this confusing of having a video and showing kids, like I've showed my young daughter, like, oh my goodness, here's your niece. Look at her sucking on her toes. How was that confusing?
It's confusing when it's paired with language that is emotionally manipulative.
Okay, or is it just because it goes in the face of narrative of clump of cells versus, hey, maybe this is actually a human being that's sucking on their toes in the womb?
I would say in the face of scientific accuracy.
So is it a clump of cells or a human being in the womb?
I think it's a nuanced conversation that
It's
maybe is not
nuanced.
appropriate for
Okay.
third graders
Thank you.
to start that conversation with. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone else testify in opposition, please come forward.
Hello, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to testify. For the record, my name is Dr. Lucy Smith. I'm a practicing OBGYN in Kansas City, Missouri, here on behalf of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, also testifying in opposition. I would like to speak about some of the real-world effects of Senate Bill 978 on clinical practice, families, and public health in general. In my clinic, I regularly see how school-based education, health education, directly influences the questions that patients bring to me in our clinic appointments. What students learn in school shapes how they understand their bodies, their pregnancies, contraceptive options, and reproductive health for years afterward. When education is medically accurate and balanced, it supports productive conversations between patients, their families, and clinicians like myself. However, when selective or misleading information becomes widespread, we must spend additional time in already limited visits correcting these misunderstandings. This can increase anxiety for my patients, erode their trust in healthcare, and ultimately lead to worse health outcomes for both moms and their babies. Family engagement, as has been discussed, is critical. Parents play an essential role in guiding their children through sensitive healthcare topics. Clinicians, again like myself, support education models that include clear communication, transparency on the topics being covered, including these videos that may contain biases and medical inaccuracies, and appropriate consent frameworks so families remain informed and involved. Developmental timing matters as well, of course. Introducing complex biological concepts without flexibility or context can really overwhelm young children rather than educate them. Teaching sixth graders, kids that are 11 and 12 years old, who should be learning the importance of consent, and including the immense benefits of delaying sexual intercourse on their emotional and physical health, and then jumping to some obscure experiments done on fetuses that are not scientifically proven, or different procedures that are done in very rare instances, can really overwhelm a student and distract them from some of the main topics of sexual health education. From a public health perspective, medically accurate human growth and development education definitely supports positive outcomes, including supporting healthy, desired early pregnancies, educating patients and students on the importance of a developing pregnancy can show great effects. It can also help reduce rates of unintended pregnancy and, very importantly, sexually transmitted infections, which have been on the rise. These benefits are strongest when education is evidence-based and aligned with best practices. As a physician, my priority is the health of my patients and our community. I encourage all the lawmakers to support health education policies that are supported by medical expertise, educational standards, and family partnership, rather than rigid mandates that are at times structured in falsities. I also wanted to note that the comment that was made by the Missouri Right to Life representative about the bill that was passed in Idaho, it was very similar legislation, and a 15-year-old boy actually testified at his school board the medical or the scientific inaccuracies that were contained in the bill, and it has since been repealed. Thank you for your consideration.
Could you tell me what's unscientific in the bill specifically?
So an example would be on page 9. It talks about a procedure that is done for fetuses that have urinary tract outlet obstruction. It talks about the anesthesia that is administered in that procedure. These procedures are very, very rare. They are done at Children's Mercy in Kansas City sometimes. The anesthesia that's administered is administered in order to have that fetus be immobilized. These are very intense, specific procedures, and it's a very, very tiny little baby that they're working with, and if the baby's moving around, then they could potentially cause harm. So there is anesthesia that is given in that case, but it is not for pain control. We cannot prove that the fetus is having pain at that moment. It is because the fetus is moving around.
So if someone's moving, it would be clear evidence of there being a nervous system, because the electrical impulses in a body, I mean, that's scientific, is what causes, like me to do this, it's not because my hand's doing it, it's because my brain's sending an electrical impulse to do it. So if a baby's
and
moving...
you're not doing it because you're in pain.
I can feel it.
But it's not necessarily pain.
Well, if I'm being poked and prodded, it would be.
We cannot prove that.
So if I took this gavel and hit somebody on the head, I could say that you can't prove that that was pain?
In an adult or even a child or even a baby, you could see different signs of pain.
So just
but
because a
alone
baby
does not prove
in a
pain.
womb, you've called it a baby, so we'll call it a baby. So the baby in the womb, just because they can't scream because it's trapped in amniotic fluid, doesn't mean, but they do have increased heart rates and things of that nature, correct, when they're being messed with. So isn't that a normal attributing factor to, at least giving rise to feeling something when you have increased heart rates and things?
That is a great question. I'm glad you asked that. In fact, when we look at different changes in the heart rate, including increases in heart rate, we frequently see that as a positive thing. So when we see the baby moving around and we see increases in the heart rate when we're tracking the fetal heart rate, that's actually a good thing. It shows us that the baby is doing, or fetus is doing well.
Okay. So if I came up and I poked you with a pin, what would be your response? Like an actual, like a needle?
Well, it depends. We all have different
It'd probably
levels
be
of
to
pain control.
recluse from the pain of
It
being
depends.
poked. It depends.
Yes.
So again, is this a scientific answer? Because we know what that is. That's why a doctor, when they're checking your reflexes, they hit you and making sure you operate
That's a
properly.
great example of a case where you hit someone and it actually isn't painful. It's a reflex. It's not a response to pain.
Everybody in here knows that you feel when your reflexes are being tested, that you feel some level of pain with it.
Not necessarily in every case.
Okay.
It's a reflex. And so the human brain and the spinal cord connection, that kick that everyone has experienced, particularly in pediatrics, that is not a response to pain.
Well,
it's a response to the brain.
And that's why I
waves.
think it's so important having these videos so people are able to see this stuff. That way we're able to cut through the rhetoric here and potential political philosophy that we're trying to associate with medical fact. Again, if you're able to move, you have a nervous system. Just because you can't hear or scream doesn't mean that there isn't pain associated with it. Okay.
And some of these videos that you suggest, again, we don't have access to these videos. Parents don't have access to these videos. We cannot say with certainty that these videos also don't contain misinformation without having them available to us.
Okay. Any questions? See none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else testify in opposition, please come forward.
Good morning, committee members. Sage Coram on behalf of the American Civil Liberties Union of Missouri, here in opposition to SB 978. I want to point to a few pieces of language in the bill that we have questions and concerns about. At the top of section 170.015 that this bill is modifying, the statute states that any course materials and instruction relating to human sexuality shall be medically and factually accurate. We've been hearing the word scientific a lot in this hearing, but the statute does say medically and factually accurate. So how are these proposed videos going to be evaluated? Echo other testifiers' concerns on modifications to local educators and local school boards' authority to develop curriculum. Echo other testifiers' concerns on Section 9 about how the bill will be enforced, the AG's power, and who would be held liable under this bill. And then final question and concern here is in section 170.313, it says that this section is exempt from the requirements of section 160.514. Curious why that exception exists, especially because this seems to require a new video, so that how does that relate to changing learning standards? Thank you.
Any questions? See none, thank you. Anyone else testify in opposition? Please come forward.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Maggie Olivia. I use she, her pronouns. I'm here on behalf of Abortion Action Missouri in opposition to this bill for all of the reasons stated before me. But I did want to bring to the attention of the committee the question from Senator Nurenburn about specifics of a specific video. I did look up the parameters identified in this bill. Length, all of the above. And the only video I was able to find that did meet all of those standards laid out by this legislation is a video named Baby Olivia, created by Live Action. Live Action is a anti-abortion advocacy organization, not at all a medical organization, whose stated mission is to change culture and laws about abortion and to ultimately make abortion illegal and inaccessible. So I just want that on the record, that the clear intent of this legislation, no matter trying to obfuscate the video intended to be shown, is to curb Missourians' access to abortion and mandate inaccurate information.
So we just had an OBGYN call the baby in the womb a baby. Would you disagree with that medically accurate or inaccurate information?
I trust OBGYNs with my gynecological care, yes.
So you think, that, she just stated that it was a baby in the womb, so you agree with that?
In particular cases that she's treating, sure, she has the experience.
Particular cases? So on one hand it is a baby and on another it's not?
I'm not an OBGYN, but I trust OBGYNs with my medical care more than the Missouri State Senate.
Okay, all right. I appreciate it, thank you. Any questions? See none, thank you. Anyone else testify in opposition, please come forward. Seeing none. Anyone to testify for informational purposes only? Okay, seeing none. That will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 978. I almost said 48. We had that up last night. We're going to move into Senator Schnelting's Senate Bill 1002. Senator, you may proceed when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Here presenting Senate Bill 1002. Essentially what this legislation does is it moves our school board elections from the April municipal elections to the fall, to November. Our children deserve a school system that is more representative of the broader community. Currently, a small contingent of our electorate is making decisions that affect our kids' curriculum, their school budgets, the future of our school districts, and our students. By moving the school board elections to the general election in presidential years, we ensure that more than 60% of voters get a say in those elections. Because if you go to a district like mine, sometimes the school board election is the only thing on the ballot in April. So our schools will just benefit from, our schools and our kids will benefit from a broader public engagement. And Mr. Chair, since I have to be in another committee for another vote, I'm just going to end it there and open up for any questions, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you for the bill. I happen to agree with you. I think we need to broaden, make sure we get as much voter input into these elections as opposed to 8 to 10% voter turnout when it comes to these critical local elections like this. So thank you for bringing it forward. Any questions? Senator, proceed.
Good morning, Senator.
Morning.
One of the, and I don't know if maybe the Missouri School Board Association's here, I'm curious about this, but in a lot of areas, we don't have a lot of candidates coming forward to run for school board. In fact, sometimes not all the positions are filled. Do you have any concern that moving this to a November election would actually dissuade people from coming forward to run for a school board? As you know, as somebody who's run in primary elections, general elections, those can have tremendous cost, as well as moving those nonpartisan positions to elections that are typically highly partisan. Any concern about this dissuading folks from running for school board?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, if you go to a district like mine, our school
and we're probably the anomaly in this, in that we have plenty of people running for school board, but there are many rural areas where that's not the case.
Mm-hmm. Sure, understood. Yeah.
Okay, and so again, school board, unpaid, probably one of the most demanding voluntary positions that you can
that we should be
sign up
appreciative of, for sure. Yeah, people put a lot of work in on our school boards around the state. Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
I'm glad that we're on the same page in terms of that. But the other big concern that we continue to have, we certainly see this, and even, I can look at my election and how votes start to trickle off, right, from the top of the ballot to the bottom, and I am very concerned about voter fatigue and people having accurate information as to the folks who are interested in running for those positions as well. So.
I appreciate that comment, Senator. Voter fatigue, that is something I've thought about too in regards to, if you move the school board elections to the fall.
I mean, we can look at the 2026 ballot and how many ballot questions will be on that. Who knows what, we're going to pass this
Probably
year.
long ballot,
A very, very long ballot.
Yeah.
So again, I'm very concerned about voter fatigue. Yes, I would love to see those numbers, quite frankly, for the municipal elections, quadruple or even more, right? At least.
Sure, yeah.
But again, just some concerns that I've always had about making these nonpartisan positions, moving that to that November election. So just wanted to share those. Thank you, Senator.
And thank you, Senator. And just to, if I may, just to piggyback on that, just to be clear, we would not be changing these to partisan elections as far as like the school board members would not have an R or a D next to their name, for instance. This would not change that, just
Correct.
to be clear.
However, pretty much everything else on the ballot.
No, I understand where you're
At
coming
that
from.
time
I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Okay, yes, no, and I
cool.
appreciate that, and that
Yeah.
obviously is something that I would always be adamantly opposed to. Quite frankly,
Sure.
in my area, it's great that we have somebody who, for example, is a fiscal conservative. That's a very important voice on our school board. Where, right, I'm grateful that, quite frankly, that we don't have R&D for all of the reasons. I think good policy is built by dissent, and we need all voices at the table. But again, when you think about the top issues going into a general election, they are highly, highly, highly partisan.
Yeah, understood.
Yep, thank you.
Well, I would say if we want to quadruple it, this is the perfect remedy is to move it to an election where you're actually going to get about 4 times the amount of voter input on these elections.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
I would say that partisan elections are what needs to happen. I mean, because when we vote, even at these local elected positions, I mean, they're making determinations on policy, on things that, that they are a partisan issue. And I think I want to know where you lie on values, on certain metrics, to know that you're going to be making the the decision that's in line with my values. If somebody's able to run on a nonpartisan platform and they get to play Switzerland the whole time, you don't know who they are till they're voting and actually making those decisions. I think it's a huge detriment as a constitutional republic. We elect those to make sure they're in line with our values. In the current system, I don't think we have that capability.
No, that's a great point, Mr. Chair. I mean, higher voter turnout doesn't drown out issues, or doesn't drown out the local issues. It just amplifies, our voices.
Why not even say that the voter fatigue is maybe how many elections we have? Let's reduce it to where we may have bigger elections, but we have less and more voter input.
And there's always voter fatigue in every single election. If
Right.
you go to presidential election, I mean, sometimes people will vote for the president and then governor, senator, and then by the time you get to lieutenant
done.
governor, it
Yep.
starts waning and people just don't care.
Yep.
So, in some cases, right? That's not all across the board, but voter fatigue is just, I mean, it happens every election.
Senator, anybody? Thank you very much. Anyone to testify in support of the bill, please come forward. Please remember to fill out a witness form.
Lisa Panett with Armor Vine. This is definitely a priority that we have heard over and over again everywhere that we've traveled across the state, that this is one of the, I would say, Republican priorities. And so, once again, I just want to commend the bill sponsor for being receptive to the people and putting forth legislation that the people really, really are clamoring for.
Thank you for your testimony.
Yes.
Any questions? See none. Thank you. Anyone else testify in support? Okay, see none. Anyone to testify in opposition? Please remember to fill out a witness form and state your name. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is David Lee Brush with the Missouri Equity Education Partnership, and we oppose moving elections to November. We echo Senator Nuremberg's concerns that it'll politicize the nonpartisan elections. It diminishes also local control because local school boards can determine the length of their school boards. They can have a 2-year term, a 3-year term, or a 4-year term, and this mandates a 2 or a 4-year term. So that's taking some local control away. And our organization puts out a scorecard for school boards, and if there's not enough to fill the seat or just enough to fill the seats, they don't have to have an election. And every year, more and more, we're finding that there are more and more districts that don't even get enough people to fill the seats that are available. So having a 4-year or even a 6-year term, as this might mandate, is going to make it really difficult to get volunteers to run for office. And from just a practical standpoint, I was a classroom teacher for 25 years and worked with a lot of school boards on various committees and things. And one of the things that I think is helpful for an April election is that you're coming in, the board will be there as the school year transitions. So they're elected in April, they're seated either in May or June, and then the fiscal year ends in June, and so they're able to be there with the start of the fiscal year and all the transitions and the hiring processes with the Board of Education for the full school year. If we move them to November, then they're going to be seated in the middle of the school year, and they may have I just don't think that is as logical as having these in April. I think having them to kind of echo the course of the school year is a really good idea. So for these reasons, we oppose this bill.
But would you agree that the reason why they offset is to ensure that you have that institutional knowledge regardless of the time of year? If you're getting new members in, newly elected individuals, that's why you have that offset, so you have that institutional knowledge to continue to carry on?
Right. Well, yeah, there is that, but with the two, and that's why the 3-year term is kind of important, because that kind of helps bridge the gaps between the 2-year terms and the 4-year terms, because there's going to be some times when those 2-year, mathematically, the 2-year and the 4-year terms are going to coincide, and you could simply have elections that are, unless they decide that they're going to do all 4-year or all 2-year terms, I guess. It just seems that this system is working. I think, well, except that in smaller districts, especially in rural areas, it is very difficult to find people to run for school board because the pool of candidates is kind of finite in small towns. And it is kind of like, okay, I ran for school board, I've been on school board 3 times, it's somebody else's turn now. And trying to just kind of scare up volunteers is kind of hard in smaller districts.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Senator, did you have a question?
God bless you.
This isn't a statement really for or against the bill, but basically in November, we're actually helping the hiring process because they'll do teachers in March, so they would be in there for a while. They'll do mostly coaches and extracurricular activities. They'll hire them in April, and then in May, they'll do support staff. So we seat people in April, and then they do, and it shouldn't be that important, but they hire coaches, and it creates problems in some of the boards. But so in some ways, it would help in the hiring processes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I thought I saw you had a question. Sorry. Thank you. Anyone else to testify in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Otto Fajan on behalf of Missouri NEA. There's probably not a perfect answer on this question. There are certainly benefits to having, pretty clear benefits to having the structure that exists now where school boards have in general, 7 members in 3-year terms. There's an exception, at least in independents, where they have 6-year terms, and there's a legislation to change that. But you have 7 members, 3-year terms, so you're always electing either 2 or 3. And you have an election every year when something comes up and the people want to maybe weigh in on an issue. They have an election every single year. They also are entering, probably they're sworn in April, and as the previous witness said, there's kind of a connection there in the same way that a November election makes a heck of a lot of sense for folks who take office in January, like legislators, governor, et cetera. The other thing to take in mind is this bill does actually change the school board terms to 4 years. That's a longer term. In conversation with the sponsor, the reason the independence bill is moving from 6 to 3 is because it's harder to find folks to commit to a 6-year term. So you are asking for a longer term. You're also now setting up a situation where you don't have elections every year, but every 2 years you elect either 3 or 4. So there could be a situation where you're actually enacting a majority of new members to the board. So all the people who come in and comprise a majority are brand new. And I think there's going to be some question, does it really serve the public interest to have a whole brand new majority of the board come in at one single time? Above all, the school board is the governing body, and they're kind of like the safeguard, making sure that there's a body of people looking over the shoulder of the superintendent, looking at all the documents that are presented for them for action. And so there's a benefit to having some continuity. We would express those concerns. We think the needle tends to tip more towards the April being, in the current process, having more advantages than the November process. Happy to answer any questions. Now we're offline.
Senator, proceed. So you had some.
Again, not speaking for or against the bill, but I do like the 3-year term too. But I think a lot of people don't want to make that other commitment. Plus, I think the rotation out does give you, when the community's decided there's a problem there, to change that tenor as they go through it. Thank you.
Can I make one other, it's at least a thought. I don't know that, and it would be interesting to know more about this, but our association has a lot of concerns about the impact of federal and the state control on what school boards can do. And it's probably worth looking into the question of, I think probably every organization in education would love to see higher participation in April school board elections. But to the extent that the school board's ability to really authentically design the educational program that is best aligned with the needs of their students, does that diminish the kind of the interest of people in the district to say, if I was in the school board, I could really make a difference on the X, Y, or Z, when they find out, maybe there's a state requirement that says you couldn't do that anyway. So that's probably something that we would recommend looking into.
All right, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else to testify in opposition, please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Caitlin Whaley on behalf of the Missouri School Boards Association. I don't need to spend a lot of time rehashing the points that were already made, but just a couple things. We do feel it is very important to keep partisan politics out of the boardroom. With the April election, we are able to focus more on the issues at hand, those local issues, the conversations in the community of what they expect of their school board. To your point about where people stand, our feeling is if you were to move these elections to November, the amount of money that's spent in a November election, it would be very hard for the relatively meager amount of fundraising that most school board candidates do. They wouldn't be able to break through the conversations that are happening to talk about what's happening in their local board. And in addition to that, as was mentioned by a previous witness, the timing of the April election, the timing of voting on budgets, conducting superintendent evaluations, having that April election really allows boards to get their feet under themselves and get engaged before they go through those processes with their district.
No, I know you brought up in opposition to the partisan aspect. Do you really not believe that a lot of the issues that they have to cover, like curriculum, things that are included in curriculum, really don't fall on partisan lines as to, values as to what is acceptable, what isn't? You just heard the bill that we heard prior to this. I would think that would be a really big issue. I would want to know if a school board member, thinks we should be teaching on development and where you stand on that. You don't think that that's pertinent information that people actually would want to know?
I think it's really important.
Of an elected, that's the thing. I know they volunteer, but they're an elected, they volunteer to become an elected official. They vote in my stead. So, I understand it's unpaid and school districts maybe need to change that, but at the same time, you are my representative voice. So I should know where you stand on those issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think to my previous point about the timing of the election, I think I had this conversation with members of our board this week. And the position is that you might come in with a political affiliation, and you might let those views drive some of your decision making. But when you're not walking in the door with an R or a D next to your name, the willingness to have conversation and find a middle ground and talk about how you can make decisions that are centered on the students and what's best for the students, setting aside whatever political party you may feel and work together as a group for what is going to be in the best interest of your district. That's really where they feel that having that specific political affiliation actually makes it harder to have constructive conversations about what is going to be in the best interest of students. And then to your point about, as a community member, how do you know where people stand? Again, back to the timing of the election, if we're asking these volunteers who are not fundraising to the level of, a state representative or a state senator or congressional race, they're not going to be able to have enough. They're not going to have the engagement in a November timeframe because there are so many other community conversations happening. It's not going to be about those local issues. It's going to be about what's happening in the State House or what's happening in Congress. And with the April timing, they are able to have more community engagement, community forums
But are
to
they?
have those discussions.
Because, they sign up at the end of December. It's winter months, so it's not like they're going around knocking doors during snowstorms, so they're not coming to my door. They're not seeking me out.
Many of our districts hold forums for the members that are running to come and
But
talk
what's
about
really
it.
the attendance in those? Let's be real. Like 5 people show up to that. Now I get that, but at the same time, these happen like now. Hey, I'd love to go. What's happening in my school board? I'm down here. I can't go down and see what their forums, what they're doing there. And people are busy, practice, that sort of thing. So having so many and not being able to even dive into who these people are because they get to ride under the nonpartisan veil, I guess that's where I'm just, I'm not trying to badger you. Please don't take that as, I'm trying to walk this through as to, how it would be detrimental. So, but I appreciate it. Sorry,
No
again,
problem.
I'm not coming after you. I'm just trying to have a conversation. Any questions? See none. Thank you very much. Anyone else in opposition? Sorry, I was reading something. Okay, see none. Informational purposes only. I'm sure you remembered your witness form.
Thank you for that reminder, Mr. Chairman. Chris Schroer here on behalf of the Missouri Association of County Clerks and Election Authorities. For informational purposes, just want to make sure when you vote on this, if you vote on this, that if you go from having these elections in April to then a busier election where you're going to have, you will increase significantly the amount of ballot styles if you do that. In a lot of our more urban, suburban areas where you'll have more items on the ballot, you will also end up with, you'll get to for sure page 2 of a ballot and likely to page 3 of a ballot. I think we all know the drop-off from voting for president. Then when you get to the very last couple questions that are on the ballot, especially when you get to 2 and 3 pages. And just, I did not pull this for every county and didn't get this information, but just one of the bigger ones. In St. Louis County, the drop-off is, this last election was 122,000 from who voted for president to then who voted for the very last item that was on the ballot. So I understand the purpose, more turnout, more involvement, but I don't know how much that will actually be the case, and that may be, but just be aware of that confusion. It's harder for our elderly, most of the time election workers. You will increase the chances of them potentially handing out the wrong ballot to the wrong person when you have 10, 15, 20 ballot styles where they've got to make sure and figure out when you try to put so many things on one election. And everybody wants safe, secure elections, but just be aware that that does get complicated for some of our election workers. Happy to answer any questions.
Now, with the 122,000 that you brought up, what was the total cast ballots for the 120 for that drop off?
I don't know. I texted one of the clerks asking them for just an example of what that number was. Okay. I can find that out.
Yeah, if you could find that out, and then also what's the fall off on an April election? Total.
Great question.
And does the actual, like even with the fall off, the total amount of votes, does it still far outnumber the amount of votes total in an April election? I think those are questions I'd like answers to, if you wouldn't mind.
I'll see what I can track down.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions? See none. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Anyone else to testify for informational purposes? Okay, that's going to conclude the hearing on 1002. We're going to go ahead and do both bills since it looks like we're going to be really limited on time. We have 35 minutes. So Senator Gregory and Trent, we have Senate Bill 906, Senate Bill 971, both dealing with open enrollment. Can I see a show of hands who's here to testify for or against on this bill? All right, so you guys see the room, so 35.
Trent, representing Senate District 20, Senate Bill 971, the open enrollment bill. So beginning in the year 2027-2028 school year, districts will be required to report their student capacity and accept transfer students where that capacity exists. We would require July 15 of each year to be the deadline by which school boards would report capacity. Students would be counted as residents of the district enrolled for the purposes of state and federal aid, and DESI would maintain a website so that parents would be able to easily identify where capacity existed in their area. We essentially already have open enrollment in the state, but we only have it for folks who have either relatives in the district or have the financial means to physically move themselves to a different zip code. And what we want to do is extend that opportunity to every student, every family, regardless of means, and allow students to go to the school, the public school, charter school, that they believe, that their parents believe is going to best suit their needs. I would be happy to answer any questions, and I believe my colleague here would also like to present his bill.
We're going to go ahead and just have you present, and then we'll ask both. So,
yeah, not a lot of presenting. My bill is 906. Senator Trent's is 971. We're combining them much like we did last year. You're not going to see a lot different. My understanding is our versions are the same that we filed, or at least very close. And we have not included what I would call the final round of negotiations. I think it's still missing in there Senator Henderson's idea of a cap, a 3 to 5% cap with an escalator clause. I didn't see that in there. We've had some other issues that Representative Powlett had talked to us about. So those, while not in here, are certainly still things we're very willing to, very open and willing to talk about.
Thank you very much. Senator, proceed.
Just real quick, if we can talk offline. You know, the cap for me is the reason is you don't want, they have teachers, they hire staff, they have buildings, and it gives them a chance. If they're doing poorly and 3 to 5% of their kids won't leave every year, that's on them. But I'd like to give them a chance to try to correct if they start finding that's happening. I think I've talked with 15 superintendents personally. All but one of them said they thought they'd gain kids, which actually made me feel good. And the one that said they thought they would lose kids, I basically had to tell them you need to look in the mirror and figure out why that you think your kids would leave. Does this one make it where they can set the cap and decide if they're going to how many third graders, how many second, how many fifth graders and such?
So the school board for each district would determine what capacity they have based on grade level and building.
Okay, and this one, okay.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. And I know we're in time. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you, but we're trying to go quick here. And then transportation, do they have to go outside the district in this version right now?
So the schools are only required to provide transportation if DESI has designated them as a transportation provider.
Okay.
So there's some flexibility there, but we're happy to talk about that component too.
Thank you.
All right, any further questions? Seeing none. So we're going to alternate. So we're going to go for, then against, and we're going to do 2 minutes because there was the whole room is wanting to, unfortunately, those bills before that were supposed to be pretty quick were not. So yeah, the first in support, you can come forward and try to be as succinct as possible. So thank you for coming up. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being patient with us.
I'm sorry. Good morning. My name is Regina Adams. I am in support of Senate Bill 971 and Senate Bill 906. I also grew up in the Review Garden School District. I started when I was 14 years old when Review lost her accreditation. As a result, I and many other students in the district were able to attend a school outside of our home district through the transfer program. I transferred to Melville Senior High School. I mean, at first I was really nervous, of course. I mean, going to a different school that was 35 minutes away from us. But it actually really changed my life. By attending Melville, I received a stronger education. I received a stronger education and access to opportunities that were not available to me before. It was there that I discovered my love for acting through different acting classes that they provided, which helped build my confidence and open my eyes to new possibilities for my future. After graduating, I went to college to study criminal justice and continue to work towards my goal of working with the courts and helping youth in the justice system. This experience showed me how much access and opportunity matter. I truly believe every child should have the opportunity to attend a better school and receive education that meets their needs. I want my nieces and nephews and all students growing up in struggling school districts to have a better education opportunities than being limited to where they live. They deserve options and access to schools that can truly support their needs. Open enrollment will give families the ability to choose schools that are best for their children instead of being restricted by district boundaries that don't work for them. I am living proof that when students are given access to better education opportunities, it can change their lives. I respectfully ask you to support Senate Bill 971 and Senate Bill 906. Thank you.
That was outstanding. You had 5 seconds to spare, so that was great job. Great job. Well, thank you for your testimony and coming down today. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you.
Seeing none. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to switch to an opposition. Please come forward. See if you can do as well as that young lady.
Well, no guarantee, but I'll very try. Dr. Kenny Southwick. I represent the cooperating school districts of Grady, Kansas City. We have 36 public school systems, a charter school system, and we work with the private school as well. So we represent about 182,000 students. This is about the 5th time that I've been in the House or the Senate that you all have allowed me to testify, and I appreciate that. You all have a lot of important decisions to make around public schools, and it's not easy work. So I want to thank you for that and for your consideration. We've talked about community and what open enrollment does, what it does to schools, and what it does to students. You've heard all those arguments in the past. I'm not going to go there. I want to talk today about 2 things. First of all, we have a modernization formula committee that's working right now. They've done some really good work. I'm going to tell you right now, you do not have a formula in this state at this time that works for open enrollment because of the disparities between local support for schools and state support for schools. So what happens when a student moves, I'm in a Liberty School District, I'm going to pay extra dollars because I vote for the bonds and levies for all of the students. But when students come in from the outside, that local support's not there. And in our situation, it's 65%. It's about 25% from the state. So you don't have a formula that works in that situation. We might have. You may talk about that next year, but we don't have it right now. The other thing that I want to leave you with, we've talked about local control, and these should be decisions that our local school boards and our local communities make as they provide for their students. I'm going to be short. The last thing I would tell you is I have a document I'm going to leave that has 260 locally elected boards of education that have passed resolutions against open enrollment, and that represents 448,000 students, which is over half of what we have in Missouri. I'm going to leave that. Okay. I would hope that all the senators would look at their school districts and whether they pass this resolution or not, and consider that as they move this forward.
Yeah, if you could get that to us, and I'll make sure that I get that to everybody.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Any questions? See none. Thank you very much. All right, going back to in support of, please come ahead. Please remember to state your name, and I see your witness form. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chairman of the Board and committee members in your respective places. My name is Brandy Johnson, and I'm here today to share my family along with my son Lamar. He's on the front row. He's an 8th grader. Our experience and to urge your support for Senate Bill 906 and Senate Bill 971. For the past 6 years, I've been fighting our school district to get my son Lamar the education he deserves. Over the last year and a half alone, I've fought relentlessly just to get his IEP implemented in the right category, a battle that has no parent should have to face. During this time, Lamar's core classes have been changed repeatedly, disrupting his learning and making it nearly impossible for him to build stable relationships with teachers or maintain consistent academic progress. When conflicts arose with certain teachers or students, the school's only solution was out-of-school suspension each time. This approach was devastating for Lamar. Instead of addressing the underlying issues, suspensions caused him to miss every critical assignment, which led to a downfall of his declining grades on his progress reports and report cards. This created a downward spiral that hurt both his academic performance and his confidence at large. Throughout this ordeal, school administration provided no meaningful support, help, or alternative solutions. Desperate for better options, I looked into desegregation programs, something I always wished I could have participated back in the 70s and the 80s when I was growing up. I wanted that opportunity for my son, but I discovered that the program is being phased out and Lamar could not participate. That door, which represented hope for a better educational experience, was closed to us. So Senate Bill 906 and Senate Bill 971 would give families like mine options when our current school cannot or will not or refuse to meet our children's needs. Every child deserves access to an educational environment where they can thrive, and parents deserve the ability to advocate effectively for their children without brick walls. I urge you to support Senate Bill 906 and 971 so that other parents don't have to spend 6 years watching their children decline and fall through the cracks. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being right on time as well. Yes. So any questions? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming down. Anyone to, now we're going to switch back to in opposition. Please come forward. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'll be quick. I'm Tammy Henderson with North Kansas City Schools. Just as a reminder, we have 22,000 students. We're the biggest school district in Kansas City, Missouri, and the second biggest school district in the state of Missouri. As Dr. Southwick mentioned earlier, right now the way things are set up, it is really difficult to consider open enrollment when we look at how Missouri schools are funded. We also are 65% local, 30% state, 5% federal, and 5% something else. Our residents vote regularly about every 3 years to increase their taxes to help us accommodate the growth we're seeing in our district. We have 100 to 200 new students that arrive every year, and we are working very diligently to give them the kind of education that their parents have voted for and that they expect. We aren't sure how, in a situation where it is not optional, how we would accommodate new students into our school district. As I mentioned, we are working as fast as we can. We have stuff under construction as we speak and about every year. Just due to the growth, we are in the Kansas City's Northland, and that is the fastest growing area of all Kansas City. So we are not concerned about losing our kids. We are very concerned about the fairness of it for those parents and those patrons we have that do vote to support our schools. We're worried about overcrowding. We are worried about losing our identity as a community and the community support we currently enjoy. Transportation could be, 22,000 kids, we move around on a daily basis, and trying to provide transportation to another school district somewhere else could be a big challenge. And then just the logistics of it. So if nothing else that you remember from what I just said, would you please wait until the formula is rewritten and then have these conversations? We don't know what we'll be dealing with this new formula, and maybe it will be better. I don't know, but right now it's not. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? See none. Thank you. All right. In support, please come forward. Thank you for coming.
Hi, everybody. Corey Codell with the Education Policy Director at Show Me Institute. I'll try to be pretty quick with my comments because we're on short time. I do have written testimony I'll leave here if you'd like more information on any of the stuff I'm going to say. But to hit a few quick points, open enrollment is a very cost-effective way to expand school choice because we're leveraging our infrastructure that we already have in place. To the previous speaker's comments, common sense rules that allow you to state your own capacity would make it so that school district wouldn't have to accept students they don't have room for. That would be a case where they would be at capacity. But then when there is capacity, we can use that slack in the system, and it's quite cost-effective to do that. On the funding issue, there are some issues with that. The state money would follow the student. In a lot of cases, that works. I talk in my testimony, I talk about it a little bit, and we have some stuff in Show Me I can give you, but the marginal cost of taking a student from open enrollment is less than the average cost. That's kind of a wonky economic thing, but the idea is if you just put a kid in a classroom where there's already a seat for them, that's not as expensive as the average cost of educating a student in a district. And so open enrollment, if it's used correctly, these cost issues aren't as bad as folks are saying. And I would urge you not to wait for a new funding formula because who knows how long that might take. I think it is important to have the capacity constraints, as we talked about. A concern you'll hear is about what I broadly call enrollment destabilization. Myself, along with some other researchers at the Show Me Institute, are doing some research on that right now. I will just tell you, we looked at 5 other states that have open enrollment policies, including strong ones, and there is no evidence of mass enrollment destabilization in these places. That's partly because even when these programs exist, most students still choose the local option. Even pretty robust policies, about 10% of kids move around, which is a lot of kids and helps a lot of families, but it's not enough to turn the system upside down. So I can share some research with you on that at a future point if you'd like to. One final point I do want to make on transportation. I've heard some confusing things from different people speaking, including the sponsors. I believe the transportation provision here requires all districts to find a partner district they have to transport their kids to. I believe that's holdover language when open enrollment was a punishment for discreditation, and I would urge you to adjust that in this bill because I just don't think it makes a lot of sense to make well-functioning districts do that. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. If you could, make sure that we get that information so we can get to the entire committee.
Back here is okay?
Yeah, no, that's great. Just leave it right there and we'll get it out. Any questions, real quick, any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Okay, testimony in opposition. Well, it's supposed to be opposition. No.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Otto Fajan on behalf of Missouri NEA. We are currently opposed to Senate Bills 906 and 971. What's interesting is that a lot of our comments would actually be somewhat similar to the previous witness. None of you are strangers to this topic. None of you are strangers to the fact that we've been working on this topic for a number of years. Our resolution says that we have concerns about public school open enrollment harming students in schools unless there are certain safeguards and provisions in place to make sure that it really operates for all students. The areas that I think continue to need attention are special education and transportation. We're happy to work offline with the committee on those topics. We don't think the bill's where it needs to be yet, but happy to answer any questions.
Wow, 45 seconds. That was fantastic. No. Thank you for your testimony.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions? Seeing none. All right. Now we'll switch back to in support. Please come forward.
Camille with Americans for Prosperity. Mine will be very quick as well. I would echo all the things that Dr. Codell said. And in July and August of this last year, when you looked on Facebook in the groups in the local areas, time after time after time, I saw parents say, didn't we pass open enrollment? And they thought that we had. And they were desperate for another school to send their child to for a number of different reasons. And I think that, regardless of what may or may not happen next year with education and the foundation formula and all those questions, we need to be thinking about the individual students this year and making a pathway for them in the next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you. We'll pivot to in opposition. Please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mike Lodewigan on behalf of the Missouri Council of School Administrators. Mr. Chairman, it feels like you're having this hearing a day late. Yesterday was Groundhog Day. I'm not going to go into a lot of the conversations. I think broadly, this structure of open enrollment that was before you with these bills, I don't think it is a square peg round hole approach with the mandatory nature. You heard a lot about taxes and the way that schools are funded. Given that the state coming in and telling a local community that is heavily locally funded to say you have to take kids, even though you are growing, even though you are trying to project out, that is, I think for a lot of folks, that's a bridge too far. We've worked strenuously over the last few years on Representative Pollitt's bill. We fully expect that bill to move and be in front of you at some point during the session. There are a lot of dynamics within that bill, but as far as structural approach, I think that provides a better working document for us to work through some of the things that exist with open enrollment. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, so thank you very much. Any questions? See none. All right, anyone else to testify in support of these two bills? Good morning. I believe it's still morning.
I'm going to do a twofer. Becky Lohman, registered lobbyist for Yes Every Kid and Missouri Century Foundation. Just want to go on record in support of open enrollment. Thank the sponsors for bringing them forward.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any questions? See none. Thank you. Next in opposition. Please remember, if you're going to testify for both bills, make sure you do fill out a witness form for both.
Good morning. My name is David Lee Brush with the Missouri Equity Education Partnership. I have a question. Do I need a separate form for, I can't put both numbers on one bill?
Yeah, you can do that. Just making sure you notate that you're doing for both bills is what, yeah, I apologize.
Contrary to popular belief, I am a rule follower. So We have testified against open enrollment bills when they've come up. We believe that we echo all the things that other people have said regarding transportation, voluntary nature, and some of the funding. We think that this is going to create an equity gap between rural and suburban schools. Often rural schools get more percentage of their funding from state and federal agency or state and federal funding, and larger districts get them from local funding. And we understand that this may be a competition model to try to improve schools that are struggling. But one of the other reasons that people want open enrollment is because they want to be able to take if they work in a different community than they live, they want their kids to go to school where they're working to make it much easier, and that's a great idea. But these rural schools that might lose, like a Bismarck might lose people to Fenton, to Rockwood, they can't pick their school up and move it. So this convenience argument is, it's a pretty big deal that Bismarck could lose 3% of their kids to Fenton, to Rockwood, and that money coming out of Bismarck will have a bigger impact on Bismarck than the money going into Rockwood. I'm having a hard time, sorry about that. So I'm a little scattered with the noise out there. But we really are concerned about the equity gap. Also, I didn't see anything in either one of these bills about IEP kids. And if I have a child that needs an IEP, but the district I want to send them to doesn't have a staff member to do that, are they going to require that new district to hire staff to cover the IEP kids? Thank you. I am so sorry. That was very distracting.
No, you're fine. It is distracting. We have another committee waiting for us right after this. So, any questions? See none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next in support, please come forward.
Kate Costas, registered lobbyist for KIPP St. Louis. Just want to go on record in support.
That was quick. Thank you very much. Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much. All right. In opposition, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, I do two of them also. Thank you. Chris Ropey, first want to here on behalf and go on record for the Missouri Retired Teachers Association, testify against the bill and be happy to answer any questions from their organization representing over 100,000 retirees in the state. And then also on behalf of the Kansas City School District, I've spent a lot of time with Representative Pollitt and have briefly mentioned to the two Senate sponsors and working with Representative Pollitt over the last several years. Our desire and changes to be seen in that bill from the Kansas City School District perspective is that you would exempt districts that already have charter schools. So we have our traditional public schools, we have our public charter schools in Kansas City, and then with the ESA system that we have now, you have that option as well for families and students in the Kansas City School District. Adding a fourth option is counterintuitive in our opinion and creates some problems. And then the other component that we would like to see addressed in the bill is to exempt or not have it apply to charter schools. Our concern would be you have seats in the Kansas City School District funded by taxpayers that potentially then those students that need to be in a charter school get moved out and pushed back to the traditional public school, and you potentially end up in a situation where kids from Park Hill, Blue Springs, Lee Summit, whatever suburb you want to talk about, end up in those seats if you have charter schools allowed to participate in open enrollment, and could be pretty disruptive to the system there. But happy to answer any questions or discuss anything further offline with members.
In terms of enrollment in general, so I had some data shared with me. So, from the school year 2014 to 15, the student enrollment was 886,000, and to today it's 856,000 students. So, I mean, is enrollment just down in general all across the state of Missouri? I mean, the numbers seem to show that, but I didn't know if that's the case.
What is that for statewide?
Statewide, yeah.
Okay, I honestly, outside of the Kansas City School District on this for number of students, I don't know how many.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, no problem. Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much. All right, in support. We have 8 minutes, and we have yeah, how many are left to testify, if I can see a show of hands? So we just have a couple left? Okay.
I'll keep my comments brief, too. Thank you. Jim Malley, Director of Policy for Aligned. Aligned supports both of these bills as open enrollment expands meaningful public school choice and ensures every family has access to high-quality education regardless of zip code or financial circumstance. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions? See none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next for in opposition, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Matt Michelson, registered lobbyist with the Missouri State Teachers Association. Our members have resolutions opposing open enrollment they've voted on. We're here to oppose the bills. We're concerned about the instability that these bills could bring to school budgets that would ultimately impact student learning.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any questions? See none. Thank you. Anyone else to testify in support? Okay. Anyone else for opposition? Okay.
Hello again, Caitlin Whaley on behalf of the Missouri School Boards Association. I won't belabor the points that are already made, but if any of the committee has questions about the school board's specific safeguards they would require for open enrollment where we think it would protect students and their ability to learn in their home districts, I'm happy to have that conversation.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any questions? See none. Anyone else to testify in support or in opposition? Okay, for informational purposes only. Okay.
Bill Gamble with the Special School District of St. Louis County. Want to express my appreciation to Representative Pollack and the senators for addressing our special situation because of the special school district, the uniqueness of it. You've addressed language in there that allows us to handle open enrollment. Just to let you know, we provide special education services to the most challenged students in St. Louis County, and we serve public, private, homebound, and charter schools. And this will allow us to continue to do that and address those issues like transportation, which is a great expense, the providing staff, great expense, which for these students we need to do. We need to provide that service to them. It's expensive, but it should be.
Oh, thank you for your testimony. Any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you. All right, any other informational purposes? Okay, seeing none. Senator, do you have any closing remarks? Okay. We're going to have to, I know we had another bill hearing, Senator Carter, I do apologize, but they've got a very tight schedule afterwards for a solar hearing, so we weren't able to push that back. So I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at, I have a second. We are adjourned.